What's going on, YouTube? My name is Zach with Android Digest, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. This phone released at $700, and a lot of us, including me, balked at that very high price because we have the Google Pixel 6 for $600, for example. So a lot of people thought the S21 FE is not worth buying. But honestly, I think it's one of the most overlooked smartphones that's actually released in recent memory. And I think if you're a bargain hunter, it is definitely worth buying. So with all that being said, I am very excited now to review the Galaxy S21 FE. So we are in the day and age where a lot of smartphones are pretty boring, and if you look at smartphones, they're trying to spice it up a lot. So that's why we have the Galaxy Flips and the Galaxy Folds. And then we see a phone like the Google Pixel 6, and it has a very new polarizing design that some people love and some people hate. Everyone is really trying to grab your attention in the smartphone market, and that's really what makes the Galaxy S21 FE very odd. First off, they released at a very high price at $700, and when you look at the fact that it released right before the Galaxy S22 would come out, it just didn't really make a lot of sense. And once the Galaxy S22 series, of course, comes out, and you have the S22 and the S22 Plus, who in the world is going to pay attention to a Galaxy S21 FE? Even if it's a new phone, a lot of people are going to think it's old news. So whether it's the pandemic or bad marketing, the S21 FE has been very overlooked. But I'm here to tell you a lot has changed since it released, and I think a lot of you should still consider buying this phone. And one of the big changes has been the price. So this phone first released at $700, but since its release, we've seen a ton of sales on this phone. This phone has been under $600 multiple times, whether it's been on Amazon or on the Samsung website, and I'm even seeing great carrier deals at Best Buy, and these aren't the carrier deals that require a contract. I actually saw the S21 FE down to $399, and all you had to do was activate the phone with Verizon one time. You didn't have to keep it on Verizon forever. There was no 2-year contract requirement. You just had to buy the Verizon version and activate it today. And before I saw that deal, I saw the S21 FE frequently for $450 at Best Buy, again if you activate it with one of the bigger carriers. And if you go on the Swappa website, you'll see a lot of reputable sellers with good reputations that have sold the S21 FE for under $500. So all of this completely changes the equation with the S21 FE. And when you look at this phone, as I go through this phone, it really changes how I view it. So if we take a look at the design, you're going to see the same story with this S21 FE. It's boring, it gets glossed over, but in reality, for an average consumer, it's actually a really good buy. So of course the back is made of plastic. That's a little bit boring. There's not anything super fancy. It looks very similar to the Galaxy S21 design, but overall it's still a great design. This phone is still water resistant. You still have very small bezels. There is no headphone jack. That is one negative thing. And no SD card slot. That's another thing some of you won't like. But that's pretty normal nowadays, and this phone comes with 128 gigs of storage. So this phone looks very boring, okay? It is made of plastic. That's not super flashy and super great, but plastic is very durable, and it's actually a little more durable than glass, and it's a little less likely to crack. Then if we get into the display is amazing on this phone as well. This phone is 6.4 inches for the screen size, and it has a 2480 by 1080 resolution. It's a 120 Hz OLED panel, and this screen does get very bright. It looks good. The colors are very accurate. So this is a tremendous screen. And if you go to the performance on this phone, you're going to find, again, you get very good performance, but it's also very overlooked because this has a Snapdragon 888, so it doesn't have the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor. So no, this phone doesn't have the latest and greatest processor. It has last year's flagship processor, but honestly, who cares? For your average consumer, you don't need the latest and greatest because this phone is very fast. You can game on almost every game on the highest settings. This phone also just flies through everyday stuff. It also does great with multitasking. Now the base model does have 6 GB of RAM, but that is more than enough for your average person. And honestly, I didn't experience any hiccups or any lag, and I had a tremendous experience on this phone. This phone also has a great camera as well, and also a great battery life. So you can shoot 4K footage from the front-facing camera or the rear-facing camera, and honestly, the footage looks very, very good. Now, the stabilization isn't perfect on the front-facing camera, but still the quality of the video is really, really good overall. And the pictures, of course, are very good on this phone as well. Now, this is a step below, in my mind, the Galaxy S22, and it's a step below the Google Pixel 6. I do still think the cameras are tremendous, and they are very, very good. I think your average user is going to love this camera, but it's not quite as good as the latest flagship phones, but it's very, very close, honestly, and these cameras are still going to take very good photos. And this phone also has a 4500 milliamp battery, and that is a very huge thing. A lot of you are considering the Galaxy S22, and I tried it and I reviewed it on my channel, and that phone only had a 3700 milliamp battery. So this battery is significantly larger than the Galaxy S22. And honestly, your average user is going to care much more about battery than they will about a ever so slightly upgraded processor. So the battery life is very, very good on this phone, and I was getting around 5.5 to 6 hours of screen on time with this battery. So I don't think your average user is going to have to worry about this battery life. It's actually very, very good. And as far as the extra features on this phone, you do need to know that this phone does come with a in-screen fingerprint reader. Now, it's an optical fingerprint sensor, so it is not a ultrasonic sensor, but that doesn't really matter too much. In fact, this fingerprint sensor is much more reliable than the fingerprint sensor in the Google Pixel 6. I was able to use a tempered glass on this sensor and it still worked just fine. And overall, this fingerprint sensor was fast and it was reliable. So yes, there are some minor compromises to this phone. Again, you don't get the best fingerprint sensor compared to the Galaxy S22. The cameras are a small step down from something like the Galaxy S22. But we also have to remember the price of this phone. This phone is on sale in so many places right now. I'm going to have links in the description. And honestly, if you find this phone on sale for a good price, I would highly recommend it. In this phone, they made a lot of smart compromises. And compared to the S20 FE, I love a lot of the upgrades that they actually made. The S20 FE did not have an actual proximity sensor. It actually relied on software and other parts of the phone, like the gyroscope and all that stuff. It relied on those things to determine if the phone was actually on your face for a phone call. So the S20 FE, at least in my testing, it did actually wake up a lot during phone calls, and that was very, very annoying. Well, this phone, it did fix that. It does actually have a proximity sensor this year. So it seems like the quality control is a little bit better on this phone compared to last year. And I only had one minor issue with this phone. I just had minor issues with RCS messaging. So I'm the type of person that downloads the Google Messaging app. I go out of my way to turn RCS messaging on. If you're not that type of person, this does not affect you at all. But for whatever reason, when I did that and when I turned on that RCS messaging service, I was actually experiencing disconnects off and on. And for some reason, it only happened with this phone, but it could be a carrier issue. It could be an issue with my SIM card. Who knows at this point? So I'm not actually going to condemn the S21 FE for that, especially when that's a feature that most people won't even use. And if you haven't heard of it, you're probably not the type of person who's going to turn that on anyway. So overall, this phone is a tremendous phone. It has great cameras, maybe not the best, but they're still great. It has great performance, maybe not the best, but again, so good that your average person wouldn't even notice the difference. It has a tremendous display. Again, it's not a 4K display, but it's still 120 Hz. It's buttery smooth. The battery life is also tremendous on this phone. So honestly, I would recommend this phone over the Galaxy S22 because the S22 has very bad battery life. Now, I get it if you want a compact phone, the S22 is still a decent option if you could live with the battery life. But my main point is that the S21 FE is a really big steal. It's a phone that a lot of you should consider. And if you go up and let's say you want something like the S22 Plus, you're going to pay almost double the price to get that phone when you could have got the S21 FE for much cheaper. So if you want the best of the best, absolutely get the Galaxy S22 Ultra or get the S22 Plus. If you're that type of person, those phones are absolutely great and they're some of the best phones that Android has to offer. But if you're someone out there who wants a deal, you don't really care about all the bells and whistles, you just want a good camera, you want good performance, you want really good battery life, and you want a phone that is very reliable. You want a phone with water resistance instance. This phone has very good speakers. It has all the basic stuff that you would really want in a smartphone. So if you want a bargain, I would recommend the Galaxy S21 FE. It's a very good phone, and you could find it for a very good price. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Feel free to give me a like and a sub if you actually enjoyed this content. And also, if you enjoy my videos, why not check out some other videos as well in your spare time? And you could also check out the links in the description. That's another great way to support my channel. So I hope you all have a great day. Leave any comments if you have any questions, and enjoy your day and your week in all these crazy, crazy times.